Welcome back. Last time, we dove into the first two lenses of the infinite investor's framework, ergodicity and duration. Today, we're finishing the set with the final three, and these are all about capturing those huge winners, locking in your gains, and maybe most importantly, learning how to manage ourselves. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's start with a classic situation, one I'm sure you've been in. You bought a stock, you made the right call, and boom, it's doubled. You're feeling like a genius. But then this weird paralysis kicks in, right? Do you sell and get hit with taxes? Or do you let it run and risk watching that beautiful gain just disappear? This one dilemma shows exactly why simple rules just don't cut it.
And that's why this framework doesn't give you a bunch of rigid rules. It gives you lenses. Think of them like 5 different pairs of glasses you put on all at the same time. Each one shows you the decision from a completely different angle. The point isn't to get one simple answer. It's to force you to ask much better questions. All right, so our third lens forces us to get really honest about the brutal and kind of beautiful reality of how stock markets actually work. It's called the power law, and once you get it, it completely changes how you think about the entire game. So the single most important question this lens makes you ask is not how do I avoid picking losers? Instead, it's am I positioned right now to actually capture the massive, game-changing outlier winners? That little shift in focus, well, it's everything. This slide right here really shatters a mental model most of us have. We're taught to think in terms of a normal distribution, a bell curve, where most results cluster around the average, and your main job is just to avoid the really bad stuff on the left. But the stock market does not work that way. Its returns follow a power law. What that means is most stocks are pretty mediocre, while a tiny handful deliver almost all of the returns. In a world like that, being average means you're losing. You absolutely must find a way to own the giants.
And this is just staggering. Groundbreaking research by Professor Hendrik Bessenbinder found that historically, just 4% of all public companies have generated all of the net wealth created by the entire stock market. Let that sink in. 4%. Everything else, when you add it all up, was basically a wash.
So if only 4% of stocks really matter, how in the world do you make sure you own some of them? Well, this is where that portfolio structure we talked about becomes so critical. The power law lens tells you how to use your buckets. Your index fund, that's bucket 2, is your automatic guarantee. You'll own the big winners as they emerge, no genius required. Bucket 3, your individual stocks, is where you try to overweight that 4% through careful research. And bucket 4, your amplifiers, is for making really small, explicit bets on those potential moonshots. You see? The whole structure isn't built to dodge losers. It's built to make sure you capture winners.
So, owning a winner is one thing. That's great, but turning that number on your screen into actual spendable wealth, that's a completely different skill. And that brings us to our fourth lens, the art of harvesting. This is the question at the heart of it. Paper wealth is fragile. It's that number in your brokerage account that jumps around all day, making you feel great one minute and sick the next. It can literally evaporate. Real wealth is anti-fragile. It's cash sitting in your account, safe, ready to be used or put back to work somewhere else. Harvesting is the physical act of turning that fragile paper wealth into anti-fragile real wealth. But when do you do it? Well, it's not based on fear or greed. It's a strategic process with triggers you decide on ahead of time. So, if a speculative stock in bucket 4 suddenly spikes, you harvest aggressively. Luck it in. But if a high-quality compounder is just chugging along steadily, you monitor it, but you let it work its magic. If any single position gets way too big, say over 15% of your portfolio, you trim it back to manage your risk. And if a stock's valuation just goes completely bananas, you trim some.
Of course, the number one reason people hate harvesting is taxes. We're wired to avoid them. But you have to reframe this. This quote is a game changer. The capital gains tax is not a penalty. It is an insurance premium. It is the price you pay to guarantee that a gain that could vanish tomorrow is yours to keep forever.
See, the choice is never tax or no tax. You are always paying a tax, one way or another. When you don't harvest, you're choosing to risk paying the volatility tax. It's invisible, it's unlimited, and it's what you pay when that stock that tripled goes right back down to what you paid for it. Ouch. When you do harvest, you pay the capital gains tax. It's visible, it's predictable, and it has a maximum limit. So paying a visible, capped tax to avoid an invisible, unlimited one, that's a bargain every single time.
And here's why this is so critical for the whole system. Harvesting is the engine that keeps everything dynamic. It's the process that takes profits from successful bets and sends that capital back to your central cash hub. And from there, that cash is now dry powder, ready to fund new opportunities. Every time you harvest, you're basically converting risky volatility into stable, useful capital. Without it, your portfolio just gets stale.
Okay, we have now calibrated for survival, for time, for winners, and for profits. But there is one final, and I would argue most important lens. It's a metafilter. It stops looking at the assets and it turns its focus directly on the investor, on you.
This is the question. It's based on the vase principle. Your portfolio, if you structured it correctly, is like a beautiful intact vase. Your actions, your behavior can't make it more intact. It's already whole. All your behavior can do is break it. This lens is purely about preventing self-sabotage, because your behavior can absolutely destroy your system, but it can never create it from scratch.
So before you click that buy or sell button, this lens gives you a 5-question checklist. First, be honest. Are you doing this based on real evidence or just because you're bored or scared? Are you moving safe, ergodic cash into a risky, non-ergodic speculation? And this one is huge. Does this move require you to be right twice? Once when you sell, and then again when you have to decide what to buy next? So often, the best move is to recognize that the system is designed to correct itself if you just leave it alone. These questions are designed to save you from 3 traps we all fall into. The optimization trap, that constant need to tinker, believing every change is an improvement. The activity trap, confusing motion with progress. As Charlie Munger said, sometimes the most profitable thing to do is just sit on your ass. And finally, the narrative trap, which might be the most dangerous, inventing a good story to justify an emotional decision, like telling yourself, oh, this speculative stock I bought is now a long-term compounder.
Okay, so the real power here, the real magic, isn't using these lenses one by one. It's about applying all 5 of them at the same time. Let's walk through a quick real-world example to see how they work together to give you this incredible multidimensional view. Let's imagine you own Palantir. The stock's been good to you, it's up 80%. You're feeling confident, and you get that itch. Maybe I should buy more. It's a super common scenario. So let's run this simple decision through our 5 lenses.
And this is where it gets so interesting, because you immediately see conflict. The ergodicity lens says, sure, a 5% position is survivable. Green light. The power law lens agrees, yep, this is an asymmetric right tail bet. Another green light. But then the duration lens throws up a yellow flag, warning that this adds to your already heavy long duration risk. And then the harvesting lens just gives you a hard no. It says the correct action is the exact opposite of what you want to do. You should be trimming a big winner, not adding to it. And finally, the behavior lens comes in with another no, flagging that this is probably a narrative-driven urge to move safe cash into a hot stock.
So you see the point? The lenses didn't give you a simple yes or no. They revealed the hidden tensions and trade-offs within the decision itself. They forced you to have a much richer, more nuanced debate with yourself than a simple rule ever could have. That's their power.
And when you put them all together, these 5 lenses create a complete operating system for your investing life. Ergodicity keeps you in the game. Duration balances your risks over time. The power law makes sure you're hunting for the big winners. Harvesting keeps your capital flowing. And the behavior lens, well, it makes sure you don't break your own beautiful vase.
So we've built the structure, we have the operating system to run it, but that leaves us with one last absolutely essential question. The system tells us how to manage our buckets and how to manage ourselves. But how do we decide which specific companies get to be in bucket 3 in the first place? What separates a true, durable compounding machine from all the pretenders out there? Well, that is the art and science of the selection process.